The SanDisk Extreme Pro 64GB memory card is the best thing for on-the-go 4K shooting. Affiliate link below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater, and Sony Pictures is back in the news. This time, well, not for anything good. Saying here that they posted an $86 million quarterly loss for quarter one, which was April to June of this year. Now, I would like to remind people before we jump into this video is all about Sony Pictures and what's going on with them. Sony as a whole, the company is doing okay in certain areas. In other areas, not so much, but they're trying to, I guess you could say, right the ship. But when it comes to Sony Pictures, I don't know if you can plug the hole that's there. But let's take a look at the article here from the Hollywood Reporter, saying that Sony Corp reported earnings of $722 million, up 282% from the same period last year, and a record quarterly result as the company's turnaround continues to bear fruit. Now, keep in mind that is about the company, Sony Corporation as a whole. They did well for the first quarter, not Sony Pictures. That's why I wanted to establish that. Sony Pictures posted a loss of $86 million for the first fiscal quarter, which ran April to June, compared to $103 million lost in the same period last year. And that is true. They did. They made a bit more money this quarter than the same quarter last year. But that also had to do with the fact that last year you had what was it? The Angry Birds movie, which failed to really do as much. This year, they had Smurfs: The Lost Village, which opened in early April, making $197 million worldwide, which still wasn't as much as they wanted. I mean, that's really not that much worldwide if you think about it. They also had Baby Driver opening up mid-June, which has done well, actually. It's done well enough that they want a sequel, but that's helping with the profits, but there's still lots that they've written down. It says revenue was up 12.3%, or 9% on a dollar basis, helped by higher television production sales, particularly for The Last Tycoon and Better Call Saul, as well as higher advertising revenue in India. But these were offset by lower theatrical revenue and advertising costs for Spider-Man: Homecoming. Now, this might also be part of Sony's plan. The Last Tycoon is an Amazon streaming show with Matt Bomer, Kelsey Grammer, about filmmaking in the 1930s and Nazi influence. It's really actually good. And then, of course, the amazing Better Call Saul. But they were really gearing up to push Spider-Man. And Spider-Man surprisingly has not done as much as I thought it would. Spider-Man has done very well. I think at this point, $640 some million worldwide. But this is fucking Spider-Man, dude. You figured this thing would have done like close to $1 billion at this point, being that it's tied into the MCU. So I'm a little confused. I'm also a little concerned about the future of that franchise going forward. It did say, though, that the success of Spider-Man: Homecoming, and it was successful, don't get me wrong, did not boost the quarterly figures as it was released in July, just after the company's first fiscal quarter had finished. Sony forecasts full year revenue for the film division of about $9.25 billion at current exchange rates and an operating profit of $354 million. And I don't really know much about that, so they're forecasting revenue, and that's probably going to be because Spider-Man and maybe The Dark Tower might do well. Emoji Movie clearly didn't, and that's going to impact them greatly. And if Dark Tower fails, it's going to impact them greatly as well. And I'm not too sure what their lineup is for the rest of the year. They have The Star, another animated film coming out that looks like garbage. So there's that. But they did say here, this is from Sony CFO Kenshiro Yoshida, saying Tony Vinciquerra took over as head of Sony Pictures on July 1st, and he has experience managing various entertainment businesses and has accomplished much in his career. He is currently assessing all aspects of the business. Now, keep in mind that the thing that they said the most out of all this is that they're not going to sell Sony Pictures. When the new guy came in on June 1st, the first thing he said to people was, "Don't worry, we ain't gonna sell." Yeah, but then looking at the quarterly reports and there's an $86 million loss, sure, that's a little bit better than last year. But who's to say that your quarter two, July through September, isn't going to have even larger loss? I mean, keep in mind last year Sony wrote down almost $1 billion. It was like $986 million write down for Sony Pictures due to the failures last year with Ghostbusters and everything else. So it's definitely one of those situations where Sony has got to find a way to right the ship, and that might be, and that if well that effectively is the new job of the guy in charge. You've got Tom Rothman as the CEO of Sony Pictures, and they just need to get rid of this guy. The Emoji Movie was his deal too. That was his thing. He backed it. He backed Ghostbusters. He was a failure of a CEO over at 20th Century Fox when he ran that thing. And so like I want him out. I want to see Sony Pictures be great again, but I don't think we're going to get there with the current leadership, especially with the way things have been going recently. But I also wonder too if the new guy in charge is there to assess the properties, assess the value of the properties, and then start selling off the rights. We all know Marvel wants the rights to Spider-Man. We all know Marvel will eventually get the rights to Spider-Man. The movie did well, not as well as other entries have done. I mean, in fact, Spider-Man Homecoming is going to probably earn less worldwide. Well, right now it's still underneath worldwide than The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And that's not to show that there's Spider-Man fatigue. I think just that because it's not an origin story and it's not a sequel to something, even though it's tied into the MCU, that might have had a little bit of a slow start. And it could also start to show a little bit of superhero fatigue. I mean, that might be a thing. Even though Marvel was on board with this constantly, they were always the ones, running the production of the film, and the film is wonderful. Sony did handle the marketing, and they also overspent on the marketing, and that might have hurt them because they didn't market it well enough, in my opinion. So there's that. I don't think Sony can market movies. I don't know why they didn't just go to Marvel in the first place. But anyway, that's a whole other argument. But to kind of wrap this whole thing up, Sony Pictures has been in dire straits for a long time. Ken Yoshida did say at the end of the thing here about how 20 years ago Sony was profitable, and then they dipped, and then 10 years ago Sony was profitable, and then they went back into the red, and they're going to get there again, but they just got to figure out how to do it. And I don't know if they can. I honestly don't know if they can, because every 10 years seems to be the cycle for them, but they're not making the right calls. They're not making the right choices. I don't know what the right choices would be. That I will be perfectly honest with you about that. I don't know how I would fix Sony. I would probably start by investing in more original properties and not adaptations or pointless goddamn reboots. Or figuring out ways to get the animation side of things back up. I would immediately greenlight Cloud with a Chance of Meatballs 3. And I would try to get Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who currently ain't doing anything right now, back on board in order to get that thing. I love Cloudy, so I want to see more Cloudy. But how would you guys save Sony? Or how would you fix it right now? Would you sell it off? Would you piecemeal it? Would you sell it all to Marvel? I mean, they said they're valued at $9.25 billion, and I don't think Marvel's going to come in and offer them that much money. They bought Marvel comics and everything for $4 billion. They bought Lucasfilm for $4.08 billion. And unless Sony has another bad year that devalues them, then it may not happen. But then at the same time, Sony did sell Marvel the merchandising rights to Spider-Man back a couple years ago when they were in desperate need of money. And considering that the Sony division is doing well and other divisions like Sony Music are doing well, it might entirely be the best interest for the business to sell Spider-Man back to Marvel for a substantial amount. We're going to be talking like $2 billion easy, in order to kind of get them out of the red, back into the black, and then maybe limp along until they're able to figure out a solution to their problems. Or Disney just has to wait for them to get really bad and then come in with a decent enough offer and own the entire thing. Who knows? But what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day, and peace out.